Hey, hi everyone. Welcome back. So, guys, as part of this session, we are going to talk about how exactly we can write down a playwright a test. Okay, so the first step out over here is you need to create a file, and within that particular file, as we are going to write down the playwright a test, you need to import that particular playwright a test. So, I have created a new file which is a browser launch.spec file, wherein which I'm trying to import my test from okay, I'm trying to import my test from the playwright test. That's it. I don't want to import anything. As and when I have a written this one, my copilot is prompting me the suggestions to import the expect and the server URL, all those things. I don't want to use all those things. I just use this one itself. And right after that, if you come back, ideally, what is this particular test that we were importing here means the playwright is providing a test function which is used to declare your tests. And of course, the playwright is also offering an expect function using which you are going to do various sets of assertions in that. The syntax for this particular one is a test followed by the title, and you need to define this particular anonymous arrow function inside that. Okay, fine. Let me define this particular function. So here test uh, open source demo. That's it. I just want to give an open a source demo. So here I'm gonna define, okay, if you look at it, basically I'm gonna define an anonymous arrow function. So here I'm gonna define this particular arrow function. That's it. I haven't written anything. This is the test that we have created. Okay, this is the simple test that we have created. Perfectly all right. So, in general, whenever you are working on any kind of an automation testing means that itself means you will be interacting with the web page, right? You will be interacting with the web page. The playwright is having a various fixers that will be performing a different sets of operations. Among all those fixers, pairs is the fixture which is used to perform operations on a particular web page. Okay, which is used to perform operations on a particular web page. So here, let me use my page fixer here. Okay, I'm gonna use my page fixer here. Perfectly all right. And page dot, I'm gonna use a go to. Okay, page dot a go to, and it is prompting me to open the source demo. I just opened it. Okay, I just wrote it, guys. Nothing more than that. So for my playwright test that I have created, I used a page instance dot a go to. Go to is the method which is used to open that particular application, and the URL of that particular application that we have to specify. Perfectly all right that I have a specified. But whenever I mouse over on that particular go to, okay, whenever I have a mouse over on that particular go to, if you look at it somewhere here, okay, let me mouse over on that go to once again. Okay, let me mouse over on that go to again. If you look at it, basically, a promise it is returning here. So what is this particular promise? How exactly this gonna work out? Right, we need to know something about this particular promise. Okay, so what exactly a promise here is? It's a type of a JavaScript method that can return a result, whether it is a success result or a failed result. So in order to support this particular promise in your code, right, we need to use a await. Okay, we need to use an await. So whenever you are using an await in your program, then it's mandatory for us to mark that function as an asynchronous function. So here, what we have derived right now from promise. Okay, so let me add a comment. So from promise, we noticed that we need to add an await. If await is there, then we need to define that test as an asynchronous function. Okay, we need to define that particular test as an asynchronous function. Why, Surendra? What all this confusion here is? See, basically, few things that we need to know. Ideally, whenever your playwright is trying to interact with the browser, all these are an asynchronous operations. Like an example that we can say, the navigating to a particular web page, interacting with an element, checking whether the element is interactable or not. All those things, these actions that we have in a playwright, will return a promise which represents the eventually the completion, whether it is a success or a failure operations. Both async and await provides a structure way to handle these promises in your Playwright. So it's mandatory to handle async and as well as an await basically. So if at all we are not gonna handle this one with async and await, what it's gonna happen? So there is a command which you have to open an application, and then it will be handling performing a click operation. Before loading that particular application itself, it will try to perform the click operation. That's the reason we are gonna add an await for that particular promise. So what it will happen, wait until this action got completed and then perform this particular operation. And another thumb rule that we need to consider is whenever you have added an await, it's mandatory to add an async to your function. So that's the reason I'm adding await to my command. As and when I have added an await, it is suggesting me, my copilot is suggesting me to add an async, hence I have added an async. That's it. So that's the key thing that we need to consider. So in order to maintain your program execute in a synchronized way, one command after another command, we need to use an async out over there and as well as an await. As these commands are returning the promise, definitely a await should be there. And another thing out over there is for all the commands, okay, for all the Playwright commands, whichever it is returning a promise, for those commands itself, you need to add an await. For the commands which don't have a promise, you no need to add an await out over there. Okay, perfectly all right. So what I'm gonna do right now is, as there is a play button next to my test, I'm trying to run it and check it out whether the browser is being launched and it's performing the operations or not. See, basically one execution, one script execution is successful. I ran it from here and I am navigating to my terminal npx playwright test, and I don't want to have my trace on here. And the file name, okay, what is this particular file name that I want to execute? I want to execute this one, okay, npx playwright test browser launch spec.ts. I just want to execute it. It's trying to execute it, and here I'm defining it as a headed right now to check whether it is performing that particular operation or not. The SaaS demo got launched and abruptly it got terminated. With that note, we have executed our program. We created a simple program which is having a test, and in which why we need to add an await, why we need to add an async, and in order to interact with the page elements, definitely we need to have this particular fixer, and we need to import this test from the Playwright module. All these things are the key things that we need to add to your code. Okay, perfectly all right. This is the way how we need to write down the code. In the next session, we will continue with the further examples. Thank you.